Scripture says that there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother, which alludes to the fact that at times you find that you are understood by people outside of your lineage, outside of your friendship circles, and those ones who are supposed to have understood you basically do the opposite, they misunderstand you. And why is that? That's what we've been discussing in the previous episodes, that visionaries normally get misunderstood. Get it correctly, because there is no way that you will find to do something totally different that you are passionate about, different from the status quo, different from what everyone else knows, everyone understands, and then everyone celebrates you. At least they are going to rise up and tell you, wait a minute, this is not how things are done. Why? Because it sends a message to them, and it makes them get scared that their status quo is being messed up and their comfort is being done away with. So they will come against you in one of the several ways. And I want to conclude that in this episode today. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
Aeroplanes are all over the place. I mean, we move from one location to another, one country to another. The fastest way to get there is to use an aeroplane. And did you know that the aeroplane was invented by a pastor's kids? Two kids called the Wright brothers, I think Wilbur and Orville Wright, were in the backyard of their father's compound experimenting, reading about flight, something that they had caught, something that was inside of their spirit, something that they were so passionate about. It had never been done by anybody since Adam. I mean, not even thinking about it. In fact, their very own father was in the pulpit nearly every Sunday preaching against human beings flying. And I think at that particular moment in time, there was funding going on. People were funding a particular professor in a particular university to the tune of, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to invent flight. And this preacher was waxing eloquent, saying God did not make you to fly. If God wanted you to fly, he would have built you with wings. And I even heard another preacher who passed away some years back. I heard him on YouTube some days ago saying that going to the moon, landing a man on the moon, was basically an affront against God, telling God to his face that, we can be able to do this and do that. Let me tell you something about God. God is not intimidated when man flies to Mars. God is not intimidated when man flies to the moon and whatever place man wants to go and explore the whole galaxy. Let me tell you, there are billions upon billions of galaxies. There's only one moon on the earth, and there are very many moons on very many planets. So if one man goes to the moon, why should that scare God Almighty, who made billions of galaxies, and one galaxy has billions of stars? And anyway, listen, they were misunderstood. Those two boys were misunderstood by their very own daddy, and they went ahead and they flew. And the rest, as they say, is history. The point that I'm raising here is this: supposing those guys were actually misunderstood and affronted to the very point of dumping their vision, dumping their idea, and maybe aborting their passion. What if that would have happened? What if they never invented flight? We will be living in a totally different world, and probably God would have raised up somebody else who would have invented the flight, and their names will forever be forgotten, never even remembered, never even noticed. But today we notice them because they lived above the misunderstanding. The power and the fire within them to do the idea that came to them was greater than the misunderstanding that their very own father had. The same thing happened to David, the king of Israel. The man who was called names upon names, misunderstood by the family, and called the black sheep of the family, relegated to be doing the most menial and the most lowly of occupations in society that particular day, that particular moment, and is misunderstood. And Joseph has a dream, and he is misunderstood by the family. They feel jealous, as if they also cannot have a dream, and they sell the guy after threatening to kill him. They would have killed him if it wasn't for one brother who had compassion on him. These guys, listen carefully, these guys, they threw the boy in a pit, and then they sat down to eat. It is amazing what people can do against you and feel absolutely nothing, because they are so incensed with your vision. They are so incensed with your pursuit. They are so incensed with the revelation that you have. They don't understand it because it threatens their status quo. I mean, it threatens their comfort, their coziness, the world, the way they've always known. In the podcast yesterday, we talked about the man who knew that the earth was not flat like everyone else was believing. He knew that the earth was round. And when he said it, they called him a heretic. And he was publishing heresies. And they said they will burn him to the stake if he doesn't recant that. It is only some years ago that Pope John II, who came out and asked for an apology for that guy who, of course, had already passed away long ago. People will always misunderstand you, and there are several ways in which they will show their misunderstanding, and it's basically their fear being exposed. Number one, they're going to start judging you. They call you names. Number two, they're going to start laughing at you because you're different. You call you weirdo and so on and so forth. They're going to start labeling you, abusing you. Number three, giving labels, putting labels upon you so that people can see and not associate themselves with you. And if you continue, number four, they're going to withdraw moral support, and the might of their finances is going to be withheld. Let's keep away the money from him or from her and see how they're going to fare on. And guess what happens? Maybe you continue, and when you continue, they unleash one of the most vicious things on the face of the earth is isolation. They put you under total isolation so that society does not interact with you. You don't have any social interaction with anybody, including your friends and your loved ones. Anyone who is seen associating with you, they are also disowned. The most crazy things you hear in families is, you are no longer part of this family. You are no longer my son. You are no longer my daughter. You are no longer ours. Why do they say that? Because you are a visionary and you've seen something totally different and you're running in a different way. And I've seen these things intimately, by the way. I've seen these things happening because people are steeped into status quo, are steeped into way things are always done. And when someone wants to do something totally different, it scares the lights out of people. I mean, the world that they've always known, it is totally different. Let me ask you, have you ever gone to someone who has always believed in their religion and you tell them that it is false? It's going to be mega war, because what you're doing is that you're going to the core of their beliefs and you're trying to unearth it and unravel it. And I love Christianity because you are being invited to punch holes, as many holes in it as possible. And that's good, because the more holes are punched, the more you're going to look for evidence. And the more you look for evidence, the more you cement it. But anyway, I'm digressing. The point is that people get discouraged because they are misunderstood by status quo that wants them to be steeped into doing something that they are not comfortable with. And if that does not happen, they get disrespected. If isolation doesn't happen, it is followed swiftly with disrespect. There can be no relationship where there is disrespect. There can be no social interaction where there is disrespect. There can even be no trade where there is disrespect. You do not go to the shop of an owner that you disrespect and buy from them. You would walk for miles on end to the extreme end of the street to the other shop, and you leave the one next door because you disrespect them. So they throw disrespect at visionaries, and this one eats the visionaries like cancer because they feel rejected, they feel misunderstood. And by chance, these weapons can work on a visionary, and a visionary dumps their idea, dumps their purpose, dumps their pursuit and their passion, and they succumb. The thing that now happens is this: if the visionary has continued to pursue their purpose over and over again, and the people have thrown darts at them, they have thrown weapons at them, they have discouraged them, but they keep pursuing, they're going to unleash the seventh most lethal weapon of misunderstanding a visionary, and it's simply celebrating their intermediate failures. Let's face it, when you start pursuing something, chances are that maybe at first you're not going to be successful. Probably at the interim, the shortest interim or the medium term, you might not be successful. You might fail at times. And when you fail, what do you need? When you fail, what you need is rest, reflection, and a shoulder to lean on, an arm on your shoulder, and some kind of encouragement. There is a movie I watched of a black baseball player. I've forgotten the name of the movie and the name of this player. It's actually based on a true life story where this black was being heckled. It was basically predominantly a white dominated sport, and this man was playing in those days where there was total racial segregation in the United States of America. And his own fans, there's a time he was playing a game, his very own fans were basically calling him names, including kids shouting, calling him, making monkey names and so on, calling him names upon names upon names, his very own fans. And this man was totally discouraged. By chance he makes a mistake in that game, it becomes war. And he says at one moment in time, the thing that saved his career was an arm on his shoulder by a fellow teammate who was a white man, who stood by him, put his hands on his shoulder, and stared at the jeering crowd of white dominated people who were vilifying their very own player in their very own team. He said later on that arm on his shoulder saved his career. So the seventh weapon that people throw at you is to laugh at you and heckle at you and basically charge their glasses to celebrate your intermediate or immediate failures. I told you so, but you just won't listen. I kept telling you there is no money in this thing, you just don't listen. You are so hard-headed like a donkey, and they laugh at you. I knew this will happen. The problem is that you can't see it, and you have adamantly refused to listen to any advice they will tell you. When will your eyes be opened? When will you get a real job? And so, momentarily, they win a battle, only for them, the visionaries, to bounce back and continue waging their war. The only war they were born to fight, and the only war they are determined to win. But that is a crucial moment, very crucial moment, when the visionaries misunderstood that they can easily down their tools and walk away and become normal. How many of those guys do we have in society today? How many of guys that you've known that are totally gifted, so ambitious, so thoroughly talented in whatever it is that they were, and they wanted to do something totally different, but the society did not take it in. Society did not see it the way it was. I can tell you, it happens in very many circles. I remember in the Christian circles, if you went to church some few decades ago, you went to church and you clapped your hands, it will be blasphemy. I heard a guy saying that you cannot play drums in church because when you play drums, the devil likes drums. That's when he comes and he starts dancing between you, and in the midst of the people, the devil is dancing to the drums. Status quo has a weird way of justifying their archaic way of doing things. When a visionary starts doing something totally different, they vilify you. So Kirk Franklin, this contemporary gospel artist called Kirk Franklin, he comes up with his own way of doing his gospel songs. They call him names. I remember the song he was singing is called Stomp, and he was asking people, do you want a revolution? And I tell you, I remember preachers preaching on the pulpits and on TV against Kirk Franklin. I remember it as if it was yesterday, saying this man is bringing satanism in the church. And they stand up against the guy and they fight against him. And if someone dances in church, there was this dance troops that had been set up. If they go to such a church and they start dancing, you're bringing satanism in the church. A visionary is being vilified. And today, by the way, we see all these things happening. You see contemporary songs, gospel songs being done all over the place and so on and so forth. And of course, people have gone to the very far and they are doing probably very weird things with it. But you see it today because a visionary refused to give in to status quo. Kirk Franklin stood his ground and he sang what he felt in his spirit, the genre he felt in his spirit, and the vision that he saw. That's what he stood with. And today, the revolution has already been accomplished to the extent that it's even being watered down and is being just perverted. But the vision won the day. So in society, probably you know someone, or maybe yourself, you've seen you being vilified and ostracized because you stand up like a sultan. I'm here to tell you that you need not to give up. You need to understand that is how society operates, and you need to be strong, and you need to continue for as long as the vision is going to find credence, mostly not in society, not on the ground initially. It is going to find credence in your heart and in your spirit. If it won't let you go, it keeps speaking to you, it keeps flickering in your spirit and in your heart, you keep with it. You love those kids. You want those kids to learn in a different way. And society doesn't want to understand, doesn't want to know. The validity of your vision is found in your spirit, in your heart. You want to write a book in a different way and people want you to go and get a job. The validity of that dream and that passion is found in your heart and in your spirit. And for the most part, basically when you see someone opposing you, it is because you are on to something. The greater the vision, normally the greater the opposition. We are going to continue with these episodes talking about this misunderstanding of visionaries in the next episode tomorrow. But until then, don't be part of the bunch that misunderstand the visionary. And if you are a visionary that has been misunderstood, find men and women of like passions and be encouraged and move 1 inch forward. Bye-bye. A special shout out to my mentor Jeffrey Howard of Visionary Business University, found at mastermindmentor.com, who has graciously provided me with the soundtrack and the introductory track to this podcast. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.